Welcome back, class, and once again, thank you for joining me. Today, we are going to finish up with 11.2. So in the first half, we talked about multiplying rational expressions. Today, we are going to move on to dividing them. So, a little review on how dividing fractions works. So, 10 divided by 1/2. So if we think about that, 10 divided by 1/2. Now, first off, probably the easiest way to think of 10 is 10 over 1 right now, okay? When we're dividing fractions, a little bit easier to just think of it, all right, have a whole number, all right, it's over 1. Now, dividing by a fraction, however, what we're going to do, we're going to turn this into a multiplication problem. And how we do that is we're going to multiply by the reciprocal of the second fraction. So notice what I ended up doing. Okay, so I flipped that fraction, which changed it into a multiplication problem. So I ended up getting 20 over 1, or simply 20. So that's the key to dividing all of these. You end up multiplying by the reciprocal. So your first couple blanks, that is what you're supposed to put in. It's the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. So when you're working through these, the first thing I am always going to have you do is rewrite the problem. So for example, in the first one, before you even consider simplifying anything, the first thing that we are going to do is we're going to rewrite this as a multiplication problem. All right? Always make that your first step. You are so much less likely to make mistakes. Just flip it right away. Rewrite it as a multiplication problem by flipping that second fraction. And once you've done that, now I'm going to take this. So 9 and 3. Well, 9 divided by 3 is 3 over 1. So then you can do the same thing that we were doing when we multiplied. If you have numbers, you can reduce those. If you have to factor, you may do so. However, again, the very first step is always going to be flip your fraction. So on top here, I have negative 10 and 3. So that's going to give me a negative 30. On the bottom, I have 1 times 11, which is 11, and then I still have that x there. And so that is going to be my final answer for that one. All right, looking at our next one again, always, before you do anything, you are going to rewrite the problem. So 2x minus 4 divided by 3 multiplied by the reciprocal of that second one. Again, I always want that being your first step. Rewrite the problem. Now looking at these. So as I'm looking at this, I'm noticing lots of linear terms that can be simplified. Okay, and how am I going to simplify them? Well, those linear terms can be factored. So notice 2x minus 4. Notice that a 2 pulls out of both of those. So if I pull a 2 out of the 2x minus 4, I'm going to get left with just x minus 2. Now, obviously a 3, we can't do anything with that yet. Now, look at my second fraction. 12x, again, nothing I can do with that yet. However, 3x minus 6. Well, 3x minus 6, I can pull a 3 out of those. And I'm going to be left with x minus 2 again. So now when I start looking to see what can cancel, what is the same top and bottom, first thing I notice, x minus 2, x minus 2. But then I also notice 12 and 3. 12 divided by 3 reduces to 4 over 1. So again, just take care of that right away. Cancel anything that is the same top and bottom, then reduce any numbers that can be reduced. So when I'm looking at this now, on top I have 2 times 4 times x, which is going to give me 8x. Then on the bottom, all I have left is 3 times 1, which is going to give me 3. So all I end up left with is 8x divided by 3. All right, this next one is quite a beastly problem, all right? So as I'm working through number 3, you are going to need quite a bit of space. If there's not enough space in your packet, please take out another sheet of paper so you can continue writing and just maybe staple it in there. Because this is going to be quite a lengthy problem. There's a lot happening here. But we have division happening. So again, before I consider doing absolutely anything else, what I'm going to do is rewrite this problem. So 10x squared minus 28x plus 16 over 2x minus 4. Now I'm rewriting it as a multiplication problem. So I'm flipping that second fraction right away to get that. So again, always my first step, rewrite the problem. Now, look at everything here. Now, the reason I said this is going to be quite a beastly problem is because every single one of these can be factored. Okay? So that's what's going to take so long in this problem is because everything about it can be factored. So, looking at this, I'm going to set up our structure. Then I'm going to do all of my other work down below so it doesn't get in the way of what I'm trying to write, okay? So, the first one that I'm going to look at, 10x squared minus 28x plus 16. The first thing that I notice looking at that is notice every term there can be divided by 2. So that's going to be the first thing that I'm going to do. So I'm going to pull a 2 out of all of that. All right, now notice, what do I have left? Well, now I have a quadratic trinomial. So that's something that now I can factor, okay? I can set up my 2 parentheses. Quadratic trinomial means I can factor. So how am I getting the 5x squared? Well, you can see I already wrote 5x and x. Looking at that 8, how can I get 8? Well, 1 and 8, 2 and 4. And the thing that I would pay attention to, you are multiplying to a positive 8, but when you combine them, you are getting a negative 14. Multiplying to a positive while combining to be a negative. That tells me I'm searching for 2 negative numbers. So now I need to consider what combination is going to end up working. Now, to speed up this process, you may have to do some guessing and checking when you're doing your problems, fit the puzzle together. However, I'm going to show you that you get a minus 4 and a minus 2. And to double check that that's what we should be getting, there's a negative 4x, there's a negative 10x. That does give me the negative 14x that I'm looking for. So for that first piece, we're getting 2, 5x minus 4 and x minus 2. So that's what goes right there. All right, now again, to conserve space, I'm going to erase what I just wrote. So if you still need to write it down, pause the video for a moment, because I am going to erase it, because I need more space to show the rest of the work. The next part I'm going to focus on, that 2x minus 4. Looking at that, so not a quadratic trinomial, so we're not going to be getting our two parentheses. What I see here is a linear term. Both pieces are divisible by 2. So I'm going to pull a 2 out of that. So 2x divided by 2 leaves me with an x. Negative 4 divided by 2 leaves me with a negative 2 there. So that one, a little bit easier to factor, right? All right, looking at our next piece. The next thing that I'm going to factor is this piece right here. So 5x squared minus 41x plus 8. Quadratic trinomial. So that's telling me that I'm going to be looking for my two parentheses. How do we get 5x squared? Well, we're getting 5x and x. And then that 8 is coming from 1 and 8 or 2 and 4. And again, the thing I want you to find interesting is we're multiplying to positive 8, but combining to a negative 41x. How can we multiply to be positive while combining to be negative? That's telling me we're looking for two negatives here. And again, you may have to do some guessing and checking when you're doing these problems yourself to fit the puzzle together. I'm going to show you that the answer is 5x minus 1 and x minus 8. Because here you get a negative 1x. This connection, you get a negative 40x. And those combine to the negative 41x that you're looking for. So again, I obviously know the answer offhand. You may have to do some piecing together, but either way, it'll get you to that same answer. So 5x minus 1, x minus 8. All right, and finally, our last piece. We have 25x squared minus 25x plus 4. Again, we are looking at a quadratic trinomial. So we're going to be getting our two parentheses. Now 25 has some options. You can do 1 and 25 or 5 and 5. 4 has some options, 1 and 4 or 2 and 2. Again, to alleviate some of those options, I've already told you once before, when you're looking for a negative number or for an odd number in the middle, two even factors won't ever get that for you. So you can scratch off that 2 and 2 as a possibility right away. It's not going to work. Also notice you're combining to a negative while multiplying to a positive. So that's telling me I'm looking for two negative things there. Now again, you will have some puzzling to do, putting together the pieces. I'm going to show you that the answer is 5x minus 4, 5x minus 1. Again, let's make sure that fits together. This gives me a negative 20x. That gives me a negative 5x. That did give me the negative 25x that I was looking for. So that is the answer to my puzzle. So 5x minus 4 and 5x minus 1. So again, please make sure you have that written down. So we have everything factored. So now that we have everything factored, Let's start canceling. The 2's are going to cancel. The x minus 2's are going to cancel. 5x minus 4's are going to cancel. 5x minus 1's are going to cancel. So here, when we write out what we have left, the only thing I have left on top is that x minus 8. The only thing I have left on the bottom, well, actually nothing. So you could write that as over 1. Again, do we need to divide by 1? No. So after all of that work, after all of that canceling, we have x minus 1 left. So now we're going to move on to the next slide really quickly to do a little summary of how these problems work. So how do I divide irrational expressions? The first thing, multiply by the reciprocal. So number 1 is rewriting it. Okay, I always have you rewrite it first. After that, you factor absolutely anything that can be factored. If it's linear, just pull out the greatest common factor. If it's a quadratic trinomial, set up your 2 parentheses. Then cancel and multiply straight across. So multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom, and then you are done. So again, I know these problems are getting rather beastly. However, thank you so much for joining me. Make sure you have everything written down, and then we will do a practice work tomorrow in class.